Hey, it's me, Riker. Today we're going to have a look at the brand new celestial hero being added to the game, Tarnos the Atoner. Now this hero wears plate-based gear, is part of the warrior class, and his primary role is to do continuous damage to the enemy, distract the enemies, and buff himself up considerably. So let's have a look at his skills. His ultimate skill, Atoner's Prison. At the start of battle, Tarnos consumes 35% of his current health to receive damage reduction to 40%. The damage reduction will gradually diminish over the next 15 seconds to 10%. He cannot move during the battle, but can change his normal attacks according to his distance from the target and gains permanent immunity against knockback and knockup effects. So if, for example, Screg is charging through the field and Tarnos is in the way, Tarnos will remain in his position and will not be moved by any of these similar control effects. When Tarnos is using this skill actively, Tarnos will inflict 260% attack rating damage to surrounding enemies within a certain area and disable them to move for the next 3 seconds. So this is a mini stun. So if there's an enemy that likes to move around, such as Kaltha, this will essentially root them in place and stop them from moving. If there is a pillar of sin on the field, each pillar will have the same effect on surrounding enemies. If a target is attacked with this ultimate skill repeatedly, the damage they receive each time will be increased by 15%. So this is similar to how Scarlet's ultimate works, where each time she does more and more damage to the same target, she'll get continually more damage being applied to the target as well. So these pillars of sin are little totems that are placed on the enemy side of the battlefield, and Tarnos will periodically teleport to each one as he gets his new abilities. So the level 2 upgrade. If there are no pillars of sin on the battlefield at the end of the ultimate skill, the effects of the pillars of sin will be triggered immediately. Tarnos' damage reduction increases to 50% at the start of battle. Each time a pillar of sin is dropped, the diminishment of damage reduction is halted for 1 second. His next ability, it is a passive, Divine Punishment. Whenever an ally hero has suffered a cumulative damage of 20% of their max health, Tarnos drops a pillar of sin behind the enemy target that last dealt the damage to the allied hero. It inflicts damage equal to 140% of Tarnos' attack rating to enemies within a certain area and interrupts their attacks. These effects can only be triggered once every 5 seconds for each allied hero. There can only be a maximum of 3 pillars of sin on the field at one time. A newly created pillar of sin shatters the original pillar nearby or beyond the maximum number, dealing damage equal to 200% of Tarnos' attack rating within a certain area, and they will be stunned for 1.5 seconds. So these pillars of sin, unlike totems, which have a health bar and can be damaged and will disappear, the pillars of sin cannot be damaged and will permanently remain there until a maximum of 3 pillars have been acquired. The level 2, damage inflicted by the dropped pillar increases to 160% of Tarnos' attack rating. The damage caused when shattering a pillar of sin is increased to 220% of Tarnos' attack rating. And the level 4, the stun effect caused when shattering a pillar is prolonged to 2 seconds. So let's have a look at his next ability, Oathbearer's Strike. Tarnos teleports to the pillars of sin furthest from him and shatters it, while increasing his attack speed by 25 points for 5 seconds. During the execution of the skill, he receives immunity against damage and control effects. Tarnos regains 12% of his max health during this teleporting phase. So, as we can see, even though he loses a bit of health at the beginning of battle from his ultimate skill, he is still able to heal himself through this ability here. After teleporting, any damage he suffers is reduced by 20%, and his damage against control effects, and he's immune to control effects for 5 seconds. The level 4, each time a Pillars of Sin is dropped, the cooldown time of Oathbearer's Strike is reduced permanently by 0.5 seconds up to 10 times. His next ability, Pillars of Sin. So this is a passive. Every 12 seconds, a Pillars of Sin is dropped in the area concentrated with allied and enemy heroes. So the most amount of these allied or enemies. It deals damage equal to 240% of Tarnos' attack rating against enemies within a certain range, knocking them back while stunning them for 1 second. Each Pillars of Sin on the field reduces the attack rating of nearby enemies by 6%, while boosting the defense of nearby allied heroes by 10%. The attack rating of enemies near a Pillars of Sin is reduced by 10%. The level 3, the time for creating a Pillars of Sin is reduced to 8 seconds. And the 60 engravings, if an allied hero perishes near Pillars of Sin, Tarnos will receive a permanent buff to his attack rating by 15% and damage and defense rating by 20%. This can be stacked to 4 times. So this is a similar effect to Lucretia, where each time an allied hero dies, then Lucretia gains a massive amount of stats to boost it up and to damage the enemies. So let's have a look at this hero's signature item. The unlock, Avenger's Blade. After using Oathbearer's Strike, Tarnos' normal attack rating increased by 75% within the next 4 seconds. His 10 unlock, during that period, any normal attack inflicted by Tarnos will restore health by 50% of the attack's damage. So this is essentially another health recovery. The level 20, enemies hit by Tarnos' normal attack during the period will lose 20 points of haste for 3 seconds. This effect cannot be stacked up. And the level 30, Tarnos taunts surrounding enemies for 4 seconds before teleporting. So let's have a look at his furniture. So as we can see, echoing Atonement, his 3 out of 3 unlock, each Pillar of Sin on the field increases Tarnos' attack speed by 8 points and life leech by 8 points as well. And the 9 out of 9, when there are at least 2 Pillars of Sin on the battlefield, the buff effect of the Pillars of Sin is increased 2 times of its original value. So this is again the defense rating and damage reduction, and this also includes the attack rating that he will get from these Pillars of Sin. So let's have a look at how he does in battle. So as he's a warrior, he can be either placed on the front row or back row. And in addition to this, he can also tank a lot of damage because of his damage reduction and his healing. So as we can see, he's currently started in the back row. He teleported to his Pillar of Sin and he was able to shatter it. So another thing that we can see is that he is a ranged hero. So he'll use his ranged attacks to deal damage to the enemies. There we go, he teleported once again. So let's have a look at his ultimate skill. So there we go. He deals damage and the effects of this damage is done by him and the Pillar of Sin as well. So there we go, there's the little AoE range that the Pillars of Sin have, and the ally is getting a buff, the defense rating, and the enemy's attack rating is getting decreased. So let's have a look at how he does with both his signature item, furniture, and engravings. So as we can see, I want to put him on the front row because he can both get the damage reduction and the life leech that he gains from his abilities. And as you can see, he immediately put a Pillar of Sin behind the enemy, and he was able to teleport and attack this enemy by teleporting on top of the Pillar of Sin, changing his position and to be able to deal damage closer to the enemies. Now he'll provide a decent amount of support and damage to his allies. However, there are much other stronger heroes that he can be paired up with so he can be more effective. So let's have a look at how he does at a much higher level deficit. So this is a 140 level deficit. And the teams that I most recommend that he'll work well with is invade based teams. So as we can see here, we have got Tresnel and then we have Awakened Brutus. Now both of these heroes will invade the enemy back lines and they'll be dealing damage. This will essentially help Tresnel be able to teleport behind the enemies to be able to deal his damage safely and be able to affect his allies by providing them damage reduction and a significant amount of control for his allies. So that was one of the battles. So as we can see, he did not do the most amount of damage because none of his allies died. However, he provided a significant amount of control and healing for himself. Now, because he provides distraction for the enemies, he might work in other teams that need a bit of essentially delay so that they can get their ults off or any of their other abilities. So as we can see here, he teleported back to the enemy's backline, interrupting them and distracting them. This allowed heroes such as Lucretia, Iran, and other heroes on your team to be more effective at what they do. So what is the investment that I recommend getting for this hero? I would recommend getting his signature item and his furniture all the way to 30 out of 30 and 9 out of 9. This will give him a significant amount of damage reduction and toughness in order to be able to survive the enemies long enough so that your allies and himself can get all of their abilities off so you can win the battle.